If you want to learn about one of the most talented defensive players in the past decade, then let's talk about good old Khalil Mack.
It is 2nd down and 5. Duke Johnson, and stuck right there by Mack, who tears the ball away.
Out of Fort Pierce, Florida, Khalil grew up a fan of sports since he was a young kid. When he was 5 years old, his father introduced him to sports like baseball, basketball, and football. And even though he played Pop Warner, Khalil specifically took a liking to basketball, and only took football more seriously going into his senior year of high school. A patella tear made him rethink his hoop dreams, and after he was recruited to the sport, my man was able to do his thing. Although he tried tossing the rock, it seemed like he wasn't meant to play Q, and so he eventually found his zone at linebacker. In his only season of high school football, Mack somehow had 140 tackles and 9 sacks as he was 3rd team All-State, and upon that helped his team to a district championship. Even though he did his thing in the limited time that he didn't end up playing, the whole only 1 year of film thing prevented him from becoming a top recruit as only a 2-star. Out of high school, Khalil was frankly seen as a 0-star recruit, so it seemed like he was going to have to go the JUCO route, until out of nowhere he got a scholarship from Buffalo. Interestingly enough, the coach who recommended that Khalil should take football more seriously ended up becoming the coach at Buffalo, and as you could guess, put in a word for the stud. My man convinced the coach based off a gut feeling, and if that doesn't show how wild this all is, then I really don't know what would. Even though he was a long shot at best, with USC even going so far to call his game too raw, Khalil was still given the opportunity to prove himself on the next level, and show if his ridiculous senior season was no joke. At 6'1", 215, it seemed like Khalil was born to be on the football field, but going into campus as frankly a 0-star, there was not many, if any, expectations on his play, all things considered. Nonetheless, after redshirting as a freshman in 2009, Mack was somehow able to start the following season and do his thing from the get-go. Nearly 70 tackles, 4.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a whole bunch of other stuff proved that he was not too raw, but instead one of the best young linebackers in college football. 3rd team all-conference honors proved that Khalil was finally getting recognized, and although well-deserved, it was really only the beginning. Khalil had some feel going into the season, and embraced it full-on as he wore number 46 after being rated 46 overall in NCAA football. The rating may have been way off, but in a reverse way, it pushed Khalil to become much better than anyone could have imagined. As you could guess, once again Mack did his thing the following year, as he had 65 tackles, nearly 6 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, and a pick as he made an impact all across the field. This time, my man was 1st team All-Mac, and was already establishing himself as a 5-star talent, and upon that, by far the best defender in Buffalo. Even though he got into an altercation with one of his teammates going into the following season, the missed game didn't prevent him from taking his production to the next level with a very impressive junior campaign. 94 tackles, 8 sacks, and 4 forced fumbles proved that Khalil had a lot left in the tank, as he was once again All-Mac, but now seen as one of the best linebackers in the nation. So with that in mind, it seemed like Khalil couldn't possibly get better as a senior, but he did just that. That year, Khalil was all over the place, with 100 tackles, over 10 sacks, 3 picks, and 2 defensive touchdowns, as he established himself as arguably the best linebacker in college football. Not only was he just the MAC Defensive Player of the Year, but somehow 1st team All-American, which is insane for someone playing on a team like Buffalo, but really more a testament to just how incredible he played that year. So with all this in mind, it would only make sense that out of college, Khalil was a highly touted prospect, and in fact many projected that he would go early 1st round. The fact that Khalil went from a 0-star recruit to a top prospect in a few years was ridiculous enough, but the fact that he went 5th overall to Oakland was the cherry on top.
The Oakland Raiders select Khalil Mack, linebacker, Buffalo.
Going into Oakland, Khalil had to change his number from 46 to 52 because now the football world knew how talented my man is. And so going into his rookie season, many were curious about how well he would adjust to the next level. Considering that he was, and still is the highest selected Buffalo player ever, and in fact the only one selected in the 1st round, you could say there was quite a bit of unknown surrounding his future play with the silver and black. But let's just say he proved himself and much more as a rookie. Nearly 80 tackles, 4 sacks, and a forced fumble in only his 1st year were impressive for someone going from a low D1 to the NFL, and had him finish 3rd in the Defensive Rookie of the Year voting to Aaron Donald and CJ Mosley. Honestly, not too bad a competition even now, so it's not all that crazy that he didn't end up winning. But nonetheless, following an impressive rookie season, many expected Khalil to take his game to a whole nother level his sophomore year as he decided to split between defensive end and linebacker. Well, it turns out the predictions were right as he improved in every aspect, and crazy enough had over 10 more sacks following the position change. Not only did he just make a Pro Bowl behind these numbers, but my man was first team All-Pro as both outside linebacker and defensive end, as he became one of the best defensive players in the league seemingly overnight. But if you thought he couldn't get any better the following year, then you were dead wrong, because not only did he tear up the football field once again as he made another Pro Bowl, but Khalil played better than any defender in the NFL as he was the Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, it doesn't get much better than Defensive Player of the Year, considering that it's near impossible for defenders to have a chance at an MVP. But either way, my man quickly was able to become the best defensive player in the league in only 3 seasons, and so it seemed like the beginning of a Hall of Fame career early on. Another dominant season the following year proved that Khalil was a real deal, and by far and away one of the best defensive players in football. So with that in mind, what happened over the next offseason was a shock to the football world. After holding out all the way into the preseason, Khalil was crazy enough traded to Chicago for 2 first-round picks and a whole lot of money. Shortly after the trade, Khalil signed an over $140 million 6-year extension with the Bears to become the highest paid defender in NFL history. Considering how well my man played in Oakland, there's quite a bit of hype around what he could bring to an already solid Bears defense. Guys like Akeem Hicks, Kyle Fuller, and Eddie Jackson rounded out what was already one of the best units in the league. So now with the former Defensive Player of the Year joining the ranks, it seemed like the Bears were no joke. Although Khalil missed a few games mid-season, my man was still able to do his thing with nearly 50 tackles, over 12 sacks, 6 forced fumbles, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So as you could guess, he went to yet another Pro Bowl, and upon that was first team All-Pro for the 3rd time in 4 seasons. The following year, Khalil was still able to continue his dominance as he made yet another Pro Bowl with solid stats, but it was a bit underwhelming compared to his previous years. So as you could guess, going into the pandemic year, it seemed like Khalil wanted to prove himself as one of the best in the league once again, with 50 tackles, 9 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles helping him earn a spot on the All-Pro second team. Following such a solid season, going into last year, I'm sure Khalil wanted to continue doing his thing, but his season-ending foot injury had other ideas, as his year ended after only 7 games. In the limited time that he did end up playing, he was still able to have nearly 20 tackles, 6 sacks, and fumble recovery. But an injury doesn't really care how well you play, and I guess it just so happened that Khalil would have to sit on the sidelines for the rest of the year. No matter the case, it seemed like Khalil was going to be re-signed following 4 solid years in the Windy City, but just like at Oakland, the Bears had other plans, and my man was traded to LA for a 2nd and 6th round pick, as he joined former Chicago coach Staley with the Chargers. Once again, Khalil is in a new spot, and this time likely the best of his entire career. Don't get me wrong, Oakland and Chicago were able to put together some good years, but the Chargers have one of the most stacked rosters in football. Just like when he joined the Bears, Khalil is on a star-studded defense, with guys like Bosa, Derwin, and the new addition in JC rounding out an extremely dangerous defense. Not only just that, but Khalil gets to play against his former team in Vegas twice a year, in what are going to be some of the most insane matchups all season. And upon that, with his former linebackers coach now in control of things in the big city, I'm sure Khalil would be put in a very good spot to succeed on a team with one of the best offenses and defenses in the league. It may be tough to get a Super Bowl in such a loaded AFC, but with Khalil and gang doing their thing, you really never know what could happen. Anyways, what do you guys think? Are the Chargers going to go off with all the new talent, or is the AFC too stacked? Let me know your thoughts. Khalil Mack is one of the most talented defenders in the past decade, so it'll be fun to see what he can do under the bright lights of LA.
Coming through again, they got him, and it's Mack with a safety! Big time hit, Khalil Mack!
Thanks for watching the video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment down below stuff you want next. But anyway, see you all soon, and peace out.